Good morning, beloveds. Now is the time of the awkward shift because I'm sitting in my car. We got to go to, it's a nice little park called Go Forth. It's named after a deputy, or it's named in honor of a deputy that unfortunately lost his life in, and it's a nice park. It's a almost 2 miles around a lake, and there are ducks. There are ducks everywhere. So we did the loop, the 2 loops around the park, and then walked around to take a couple of pictures of the ducks. And now I am getting ready to go and have this mane tamed. But first, I am going to do 365 Science of Mind, and hope my phone does not take a dive because it just made a move. It is March 27th. Our title is Subjectivity. And let's see what Ernest has to say. The mind of God is the only mind there is, and we all use this mind. But in the use of it, we create a mental atmosphere that surrounds us, and that is often thought of as the unconscious or subconscious. This is not a separate mind. It is merely a reaction of the one mind principle to the use we have made of it. You and I could no more have an individual mind than we could have an individual ownership of the principle of mathematics, or of harmony, or of beauty. Each of us is creating in an individual way. We are individualizations of this one mind, and no 2 of us are exactly alike, but we are all immersed in this one mind, and no But we are all immersed in the collective thought of the whole human race. Jung has called this the collective unconscious. Just as we have an individual subconscious reaction to life, we also have a collective subconscious reaction to life. And just as we are more or less automatically influenced, and perhaps too much controlled by our individual subconscious reaction, we also are influenced by the subconscious reaction of the ages. Tradition too largely governs us. But we should never forget that back of all of this is the divine mind or intelligence itself, in which there is no bondage, no fear, and no evil. It is towards this greater center within us that we must travel if we wish to become emancipated from the unconscious reactions of our own being. Today, I affirm freedom from the limitation of my own thought. I am no longer hypnotized by the mind of history. The divine intelligence within me is transcendent of all previous experience, free in its own right, existing in its own being, and creating and manifesting from the center of its own perfection. This radiant center in me is making everything new in my life and in the lives of those around me. And the Bible quote is, "His compassion fails not. They are new every morning." And it's from a book called Lamentations, 3:22 and 23. I can't say that I've read Lamentations. I'm going to have to go look for that. And there it went. It's a bit muggy this morning, so I actually have the car on, and I think the vibration on the steering wheel is part of what's making my camera a little unstable today. All right. So there's a lot of thoughts about subjectivity, but one of the things is what he was going at is Jung calls it the collective unconscious. You've also heard it called race consciousness. And basically, what it sounds like today is Ernest is saying that we can free ourselves from race consciousness. just because we have this tendency, we have a tendency to react in certain situations in certain ways. And his assertion is that we don't have to. We don't have to. And it is through recognizing, one, who we are, and two, what our source is, that will free us from the reactions of race consciousness. And there's a whole lot in the race consciousness. One example, and this is a wild example, taken to its extreme, so please read it as that, is that if I get cancer, I'm going to die. Okay. One, that's not true. And it's not true for multiple reasons. One, we have very good medical treatments now. And two, because our bodies can combat that, can heal that, can whatever you want to say. But if you allow the race consciousness to do that, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do you not let race consciousness become a self-fulfilling prophecy? And that's how spiritual practice, recognizing your source, recognizing who you are, recognizing where you come from. And then that word does not become a death sentence. So, okay, I'm going to try and trust my phone for a minute. That's kind of subjectivity. It's like principle is not bound by precedent. Just because it has been this way does not mean it has to continue that way. So the mind of God is the only mind there is. And we all use this mind. But in the use of it, the mind, that's a capital M, by the way, and capital I. We create a mental atmosphere that surrounds us, that is often thought of as an unconscious or the subconscious. I would use computer, but I might confuse myself, so I'm not going to do that. Basically, think of the subconscious as the instruction manuals. It's like you have access to them, but they're not on the front of the shelf. So it's all there. And it's like everything that you have thought, said, done, practiced, it's all in your subconscious. It's not at the forefront of what you're actively working on. This is not a separate mind, merely a reaction of the one mind principle to the use we have made of it. So it's all in there, it's just not in the forefront. We have access to it. You and I could no more have an individual mind than we could have individual ownership of the principle of mathematics or of harmony or of beauty. And that's one of the ways that Ernest says that anything you want to know you have access to, because it's all in the same mind. Each of us is creating an individual way. We are individualizations of this one mind. So we all have our own path that we walk in this one mind. Because we all have these preferred areas that we go in this one mind. It's like, yes, we have access to all of the one mind, just not at once. That would be, yeah. We're not built that. We're not built that way. That is how the original container shattered. That's, I believe, well, it could be Gnostic and it could be Kabbalah. If you want the Western translation there. It's like the one mind tried to pour itself into a container that couldn't hold it, and it shattered. And it shattered. So we have access to the entire one mind, just not all at once. It would literally be mind-blowing. Okay, so we are individualizations of this one mind, and no two of us are exactly alike. Thank God, because the world would be boring if we were. But we are all immersed in the collective thought of the whole human race, which is one of the reasons why they call it race consciousness. Jung has called this the collective unconscious. Sometimes we have reactions we don't understand where they came from, That's what we're talking about. It's something that we're taught. It's not who we are, but it is something that we are taught. It's reactions that we think come out of nowhere because we don't think we're those people, and we're not. But we have tapped into something bigger than us that we can heal, by the way. And not all of it's bad. Don't let me tell you that race consciousness is bad. It's not. It's the use we make of it that can be positive or negative. Just as we have an individual subconscious reaction to life, we also have a collective subconscious reaction to life. So it's like we all have our individuals, and then we have this just the whole world kind of goes, well, it's going to go this way. And then there are a few of us going, no, it doesn't have to go that way. And the more of us that say that, then the more of us eventually will tip it. We'll tip it. So that's how we get to peace. The more of us who practice peace within ourselves we will tip the race consciousness into peace. That's why they do those collective peace meditations. Like everybody in the world at this time is going to do this meditation. That's what they're doing. They are working on race consciousness. They are working on changing the race consciousness. And just as we are more or less automatically influenced and perhaps too much controlled by our individual subconscious reactions, we are also influenced by the subconscious reactions of the ages. In all those stories, well, my aunt said, Grandpa did it this way, so it's good enough for me. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's like, just because it's been done this way all throughout history doesn't mean we have to keep doing it that way. But unless we make a conscious choice, we're going to keep doing it that way. That's why those who don't read history are bound to repeat it. Same thing with race consciousness. If we do not make conscious choices, then we are bound to repeat our subconscious choices, both on an individual level and on a global race conscious level. Tradition too largely governs us. Right there. Tradition too largely governs us. So how do we get out of it? And that's pretty much his next sentence. Okay, tradition too largely govern us. But we should never forget that back of all this is the divine mind or intelligence itself, in which there is no bondage, no fear, and no evil. So we go back to the source. We go back to the divine mind in treatment, in meditation, in prayer, in our daily lives. And we do that by being conscious, by paying attention, by not running on automatic, by not reacting, but by responding. And responding is choice. Responding is choice. It is towards this greater center within us that we must travel if we wish to become emancipated from the unconscious reaction of our own being. So, what that place within us where nothing has ever been wrong. That's what Reverend Jesse called it. The place within us that nothing has ever been wrong. What I like to call that place where we meet the unfiltered God. Where we meet God not through the material, not through the mortal coil, not through matter, but on a spiritual level. And that is spiritual practice. That is meditation. That is treatment. That is, reading sacred writings, listening to music. And it doesn't have to be sacred music. It can be any music. If it gets you to that spot, running, hiking, whatever gets you to that spot of unfiltered God. And you bring that consciousness back with you. That's how you get out of race consciousness. And that's how you influence race consciousness, by carrying you and that unfiltered expression of God back into the race consciousness. By making a conscious choice. Today, I affirm freedom from the limitation of my own thought. I am no longer hypnotized by the mind of history. The divine intelligence within me is transcendent of all previous experience. Principle is not bound by precedent. Just because it has happened this way every time before does not mean that it has to happen that way again. Now, that being said, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You want a different result, you got to change something. And sometimes the only thing you have to change is your own mind. And you'll get a different result. Okay? So, don't be crazy. Change something, but what you are arguably changing is your own mind. You are changing the pathway and using the divine mind and not the subconscious race consciousness. You are making a choice. All right. The divine intelligence within me is transcendent of all previous experience, free in its own right, existing in its own being, and creating and manifesting from the center of its own perfection. So I am creating from the divine, not from race consciousness. I have chosen to go one step up. And that's the operative word. I have chosen. I am creating from a divine platform, not from a race consciousness platform. This radiant center in me is making everything new in my life and in the lives of those around me. Because when I change for the good, everyone around me changes for the good. Because if they choose not to change for the good, then they tend to shuffle off into, whatever it is. So everyone around me changes for the good. And all that takes from me is to up-level me. Up-level the mind that I am using. His compassion fails not. They are new every morning. So our mission today, should we choose to accept it? Wow. What is our mission? Well, he gives it to you in that third paragraph. Our mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to affirm freedom from the limitations of our own thoughts. To recognize that we are not bound by race consciousness, that we have access to the unlimited divine mind. Because that's the mind that we're using. We're using it all the time. It behooves us to use it consciously, to use it creatively, to use it within its nature, which is love and peace and harmony and creativity and unity and all of those amazing words that when they come out of your mouth, they make you feel really good. That's what we're talking about. So, subjectivity. That is our topic today. Principle is not bound by precedent. So, but we are coming close to the end of March. We are coming close to the end of March, which means I am close to the end of this book because I started this in March, which is great, but don't worry, I'm going to continue to do this. I have learned a lot this year just doing this. It's been fantastic for me, so I'm going to continue to do it. I'm just going to move on to another one of his 365s, Ernest Holmes 365s. So I will still be with you at 9 a.m., at least for another year. All right, beloveds, I'm going to encourage you, as I always do, to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself, whatever that looks like for you today. Today, that was 4 miles in the park, and then I'm going to go get my hair cut. Yeah. So, take care of yourself. Drink plenty of water. I would tell you to get a face full of sun, but if you can see out my windows, there's no sun to be had today. I don't know. Days like this, it's like, I would, just rain. I would rather it be raining than looking at the clouds, but it did make it, the park that we went to, there the trees are young. So that was nice that it's a cloudy day. So that we're not running in the sun. But engage your mind and your body today. Get some fresh air. Open the windows of your soul. And let that breath of heaven remind you that you do live in heaven now. You are a beloved child of God in whom God is well pleased, always and forever. That is your state of grace. All right, beloveds. Oh, I'm going to lose the camera. So have a wonderful day and do what you need to do to make it the best you can. And remember, principle is not bound by precedent. It can turn out different. All you got to do is change your mind, change your heart. Remember who you are. Have a wonderful day, beloveds.